So we started off by building the right proposition. We had an issue with delivery of OTP.
It's a very common problem.
You take a punt at 2 or 3 metrics within that channel of what you want to monitor. Do I want to therefore monitor the top of the funnel to optimize that? The answer is no. How does the consumer enter into the journey of app download? In a category where typically you're expected to have 3 interactions a year.
A year? No, I want 0. Let me be honest.
The consumer is staring at a part of the screen, but on average consumer is spending 10 seconds there.
That means they can't understand it?
Exactly. You have to have a very, very, very strong bend of mind on outcome orientation.
Welcome to Behind the Feature. Today we're joined by Dhruv Shankar from Aditya Birla Health Insurance. He is the Chief Digital Officer and he comes with more than 2 decades of experience from various industries like banking, telecom and payment. What if we tell you there is a company that is actually changing the way that we look at insurance to not only make it more engaging, but also simplifying the entire process. Today, we're actually going to talk about Aditya Birla Health Insurance digital philosophies on not only how they're tackling user challenges, but simplifying the buying process, as well as onboarding and engaging customers. Come be part of our journey. And if you do like this episode, do follow and subscribe on YouTube. Welcome, Dhruv.
First, when you say 2 decades, it rings a bell. It sounds great on my resume, but it makes me sound really old when you say it out loud like that. I actually ended up in the digital space by mistake.
Okay.
There was a company back in 2004 where I ended up going for an interview not knowing at all what the company does. The interview was 2 minutes of silence where my recruiting manager just stared and looked at me, walked out of the room, came back with HR and said, let's give him a shot. I didn't know then it's going to change my career for good. I've spent the last 20 plus years from a stage where the word digital didn't mean anything in India. I had to learn my ropes of what digital means by myself and with experts like Google. Okay. I would spend my day in the Google office in Mumbai, sitting with those folks, understanding what digital means. And I have figured my niche, that my specialty is digital and not the industry I operate in. What digital means to me now is a way of doing business. It's not about tools, technology only. It's about the way a franchise operates and does business. That's fundamentally my one-line definition of what digital means.
Okay.
The corollary I can give you from the physical world is having a branch or a physical office or a store does not necessarily mean you'll sell. You need the right people with the right skill, the right training. Having technology and infrastructure is the branch. The right people, the right outlook, the right orientation is what digital is in today's world.
You're not a product first company. When, especially in industries like financial services, like you said, to make the company digital first, how did you go around breaking down these walls that existed?
Brilliant question. I think first and foremost, I'll just recalibrate. We are now a product first company.
Okay.
Right? For example, we have recoined our digital assets as standalone products in themselves.
Okay, right? Interesting.
So we are no longer saying that our only product is the underlying health insurance that you take from us. Value that our assets bring to consumers standalone even without having insurance is significant enough for it to be called a product. What is our segue into health insurance and why we are different, right? We fundamentally started off saying our goal is of course to cover you when you're unwell, right? We'll take care of your expenses. But is that the ideal state? The answer is no. Our goal is to help you know, improve by tracking your health and building relevant interventions for you, right? And that's what we called our health assurance model. So our entire digital offering is predicated on these 3 pillars. Know your health, track your health, improve your health. What this gives is the consumer the ability to actually over a period of time improve their health, thereby potentially not needing to avail of insurance. Now that's a great win-win for both. We are reducing our cost on the claim side, but in the whole process, consumers are improving their health, which is far more powerful for them than having the need to claim insurance.
I think, Dhruv, this is like fantastic and I understand this, and this is where I want to come in. At the end of the day, getting a health insurance app in somebody's phone, you have this great, goal, we want to improve your health, but getting them to download the app, there must have been many roadblocks that you came across when it came to the customers that you had to, get them to download it. How did you go about getting them to download the app and then using it?
It's tough, right? And part of the conversation starts with building the right proposition. There's a very clear focus on what do we offer on the app.
Okay.
Right? Is it just an ability to come and service the policy? The answer is no. We offer more than 40 services on the app
40.
related to how every aspect of what you do every day has a positive or negative rub off on your health.
Right.
How much time you sleep for, what's your sedentary time, light activity, heavy activity. A lot of this is AI and data driven, which gives you contextual nudges on what you should and shouldn't do.
Okay.
There's a very large ecosystem and products and services that are built into the app that are relevant to different people. Not everybody needs each of these. So we started off by building the right proposition. The second part, while we talk about this whole model being digital, right? We had to activate every touch point that was available for us as access. The touch point of physical sales, the touch point of digital sales,
Okay.
the touch point of servicing, and also engagement through our digital campaigns to start having a conversation of why this app is important in your life. Right?
Okay.
But underlying to do this, we figured that we need to throw in a sweetener. So we coined a term called health returns, which is fundamentally our promise to you is to cover for when something goes wrong to you, but also to improve your health. Join this bandwagon, show commitment, and if you live your end of the deal, we'll start returning your premium to you.
And up to what percentage?
100%.
So I can get back 100% if I'm healthy and I track my health on the Active Health app.
It's a simple business decision, right? I have an option to pay out a claim
Or
I can return your premium.
fantastic.
There is a payout in each case. I'd rather pay out your premium back to a healthier customer than pay out a claim to one of my consumers who's unwell. That's fundamentally the philosophy. The grind to grow the app penetration was slow. There was a lot of fine tuning required, and that's where I think a lot of rigor goes. Like any other business that you do, the digital business is a lot about rigor.
Okay.
And we had to specifically reorient part of the team to look at what these funnels look like, to look at heat maps, to look at consumer friction point. Where does the consumer drop off? And we got some amazing insights.
Can you share one of them if you don't mind?
Very interesting. We had an issue with delivery of OTP for authentication upfront.
It's
Right?
a very common problem.
But we figured that the moment the OTP takes more than 4 seconds to land on the consumer's phone, they actually shut the journey and opt out. All it
Okay.
took for us was to have very, very clear focus on optimizing as much as we could with the partner we work with, the OTP within 4 seconds. And that's given us a 100% lift in downloads year on year. A lot of work that happens in digital, right? Like any other business, is a lot of minute things
Yes.
that add up into being something meaningful. And that's exactly how we've gone about the whole process of downloading the app. And it has now, I think, reached a stage where it'll become a self-sustaining engine because the proposition of the app is so strong that consumers will start valuing the app even without insurance.
So I think just to summarize, the first thing that you definitely mentioned was the proposition, because at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Second was activating all the channels that are available in your toolkit.
Absolutely.
At your end, there's a massive distribution channel that you decided to leverage.
Absolutely.
And the third one is definitely deep diving and going behind the problem. In this case, when you found out the OTP problem, right? The 4-second thing. You worked with the right partner and you actually went in to solve the root cause of this problem.
Yes.
Rather than, like just making it a UI UX change. Like sometimes you end up getting limited to it. So
Absolutely. And just to add to what you said, the third point, right? Identification in the digital world is so much more enhanced as compared to the physical world because of the access you have to data.
okay.
Right? But the ability to comprehend what's right and wrong, what are the things you measure, is where a lot of focus goes.
How do I identify? Because there's so many metrics that are available today in our analytics toolkit, right?
There are one obviously with experience, right? And therefore, my prescription to anyone who's doing this for the first time or the second time is just choose a starting point.
Would you say it's a North Star OKR, like a North Star objective that you go after? Is that what you mean by a starting point?
The North Star objective is anyway set, right?
Yeah.
We've set ourselves as ambitions as businesses and they are measured through OKRs,
Right.
which is objectives and key results for any initiative that you do. I'm saying choose a starting point of what you measure.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
If you have the right, so for example, if you look at the funnel of how consumers end up into the app, for example, I have 3 sources. Let's say my agents,
Right.
my digital campaigns, and my contact center. There is a inflow into each of these channels that results in a particular output. There are factors that influence this which you need to monitor. You may or may not know how to influence a sales guy today.
Right.
Therefore, you take a punt at 2 or 3 metrics within that channel of what you want to monitor. As long as you have the rigor to monitor it every day and try and influence those 2 or 3 parameters, whether your influence is impacting the number will be visible very, very quickly.
Okay.
With time and doing this over and over, you will refine your ability to identify the right metric quicker. there's not necessarily one right answer at the get-go, right? Of course, with experience, you'll get a lot better at this. But the ability to do this quickly is so elevated in digital that it's okay to get it wrong the first time.
I think that's just one of the most good, like terrific insights, which I think I'm definitely going to be using in my day-to-day.
I wish my manager had told me this earlier.
No, because I mean, these are the kind of things, right? At times, I have a sheet of like 50 metrics that I'm tracking and I just don't know which one to go after. So what you're trying to say is just like kind of put like a focus on a few of them.
Yeah.
And you can fail. There's nothing wrong in failing, and then you just learn. So, you actually mentioned demographic, and that has, that's one thing that's always been on my mind. And especially, when I was also working at ABHI, was a lot of the people who download the health insurance or actually buy health insurance are people over a certain age who are not necessarily as tech savvy and use that many social media tools.
Yep.
How have you actually addressed, the kind of journeys that you all have created, that it can be universal to people across different demographics?
The short answer, it is not universal.
Okay.
Any product means different things to different people.
Right.
And therefore it's not universal. A product needs to cater to certain aspects that a consumer needs, which are very unique to them, right? So when we talk about, say, physical fitness, it could mean something very different to you than it does to me.
Definitely.
Right? And therefore, I cannot have an app that says caters to physical fitness for everyone. A lot of the work we've done is having conversation with people, but the reality also is observing data.
Okay.
Right? I think a lot of context of what appeals to someone in our proposition starts off from what the consumer tells us, but we finalize looking at the data that we have on consumer. It's a combination of listening to our consumers, but then analyzing their data, because their data tells us an additional part of the story that they may not have verbalized to us. What we've done fundamentally is we've started personalizing experience that people have on the app.
Okay.
Starting off right when they buy the policy from us, what does health mean to you?
Okay.
That gives us the first insight into what they're probably trying to solve on the health and wellness side. And therefore now what they experience on the app is pertinent and relevant to what they have told us. But our conversation doesn't stop there, right? I say, I want to lose weight. It's a very high priority, but my consumption pattern on the product does not speak to it.
Definitely.
Right? That's the listening to data part.
Okay.
Where what you experience, what we nudge you towards, a combination of what you've said and what you do, and your experience radically changes.
Can you give an example of a nudge in this case that you might have added in?
It's very simple. I'll give you something about, and this is something I think as working professionals we face a lot, right? Our ability to manage and optimize work-life balance. And there are many elements within that, right? For a lot of us, it boils down to stress level, sleep. We actually monitor sleep, and there are proactive nudges on constantly reminding the consumer that they need to sleep more, what time they should go to sleep. The phone buzzes in their hand when they're crossing the time when they should sleep.
Oh, wow.
What this has given us, and that's the fun part of our proposition vis-a-vis other insurance companies, is the level of engagement is significantly higher in our proposition than you would experience anywhere else. Engaged consumers on our portfolio spend about 150 minutes a month on our app, engaging with and trying to understand how they can improve their health. In a category where typically you're expected to have 3 interactions a year.
A year? No, I want 0. Let me be honest.
No, I'm assuming 2 for sales and 1 for renewal.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that I do have.
Yeah. So the fact that it's got personalized.
150 minutes?
And we've tracked 193 billion steps that our consumers have taken in the last year on our app, which is a significant anyway jump over the previous year. But the average steps taken by a consumer in our portfolio is also 50% higher than the global average.
Where are you finding all these people?
Thankfully now they are finding us.
And I think that's what has been like you said, you're a product first company, so
Absolutely.
You want to attract the healthy lives.
So I want to talk about something very specific here, because you brought up the question on the younger population that does not have a health insurance need, perceived at least.
Yes.
We've had to specifically focus some of our capabilities to that audience as a gateway entry into the app. For example, right, the first pillar I called out is know your health. Traditionally, we did that saying it's not a gate to buy a policy, take a policy, but to know your health, get a medical checkup done.
Right.
We'll facilitate it. Last year, we built that entire digitally.
So I've tried it out very honestly. Just yesterday, I because my policy was renewed and I did not have time to get someone to come in.
That's glad.
And they kept calling me and I just didn't want to give blood, okay? I was just a little like... So I opened the app and they said, hey, do your health assessment, like your health checkup digitally. And I thought, really? This is interesting. I just wanted to see what they meant. So you're right. Like, it was quite an interesting... Why don't you share a bit more about this journey?
So it's completely built on AI/ML.
Okay.
Natural language processing. It fundamentally has the ability to observe your face for 2 minutes and pull out about 8 critical health parameters. We've actually A/B tested this for a set of consumers against their physical health checkups.
Okay.
And it holds its muster.
Yeah, I think my BP was pretty, like it actually mentioned my breathing. And I was like, you just saw my face for 2 minutes.
Exactly.
And it's a great example of how y'all are leveraging AI.
Absolutely. But what this has done fundamentally is someone like you doesn't feel the inherent need and shouldn't to go and do a physical checkup just because you bought a health insurance policy. A digital health assessment is doable, right? It's interesting. It gives you the insights that you potentially need without being intrusive. And therefore these consumers, so 44% are consumers who've done a digital health assessment have actually ended up starting to track their physical activity. And the large part of this cohort are younger consumers. We've taken away the friction from their life on going to a physical outlet or someone coming home and taking a blood sample to do a checkup. This is tailored specifically now for a younger population. But after having observed how effective it is, we've opened it up for everyone.
Okay.
So the focus is going to be at a broad level, look at different age cohorts and whether at a mass level for these cohorts, specific parts of our proposition need to be fine-tuned, augmented to bring more appeal. And that's the approach. It doesn't stop there, of course, right? Within an age bracket of say 25 and 35, everyone's different. And we'll keep bringing nuances within that appeal to different subsegments. And eventually an individual consumer.
So you've taken us through how sleep was an interesting feature. You've mentioned the digital health assessment. When I was going through the app, there is gamification that you have introduced via communities and leaderboards. Do you think these work? And does it actually help engagement on the app?
It does. It definitely does. It's one of the most sought after features on the app. And everyone's competitive, right? We want to know where we stand vis-a-vis others. So these contests and communities do help. But while the experience is gamified, our contests are actually very well thought through.
Okay.
Right? Which means they're not random in just trying to drive eyeballs on the app. There's a very strong underlying purpose for each contest. It's targeted, for example, at we want our consumers to walk a little more to improve their health. And therefore, there's a very specific contest built around walking.
And what can you win?
It varies. I mean, we've given away smartwatches. We've given away vouchers for some of the largest e-com platforms. It's a multitude of things, right? There are times where we have very large prizes. There are times where we have many small prizes. For us, and that's the hook that brings people in, right?
So incentives definitely work according to you.
Of course they do. What they help with is bringing people through the door. But that's not what our entire model is. Our model is built on getting you through the door through incentivization and the power of the product, and make sure that you experience the power of the product fully, at which stage your health improving is enough incentive. And that's the game plan. And we're starting to see that with a lot of our consumers now at scale, where they have been around on the app long enough to know this is bloody well good for my health. I'm not going to drop off from here. I know there's a monetary benefit, health returns, right? But I want to monitor my health. And that's fundamentally eventually where we want to take consumers into, whether it's through gamification, whether it's through digital health assessment. The end goal is this. So we will continue to nudge consumers with offers, but we will continue to nudge them towards better health as well.
I think that's definitely interesting. Are there any cool features that you can share that are slated to launch soon?
Actually, I'll first call out one that we've recently launched, right?
Okay.
As a CSR initiative, we've been running a platform called Jump for Health. Fundamentally, consumers have to jump on a video, record it, and for every 10,000 jumps, we actually donate a prosthetic leg to someone who's in need. We actually built that entire thing on the app this year. Earlier, it was somebody recording a video of themselves and sending it. We've used hardware built into the phones that each one of us operate with today to calculate very accurately the number of jumps someone is doing, and then build that engagement on the app. And because it's CSR, we've also actually requested these consumers who come onto the app and do it to invite their friends and family to do it too.
And how can you do that? Because I'm guessing this is I have to be a customer of ABHI.
You don't need to. Like I said, we are so confident in the health proposition our app delivers, you don't have to hold a policy to use my app.
Okay.
Come, download the app and use it as a standalone app to improve your health, period. In the process, if you have insurance needs, of course, you can fulfill those too as a consumer. But it's a health and wellness ecosystem, is what the consumer gets out of the app as a product.
And what do you think when you provide freemium features on the app? Because at the end of the day, there is the insurance angle. What are some of the features that have worked well versus, for a freemium to actually attract them then into the entire journey?
Fundamentally, I'll call out two large areas. The first one is the ability to actually discover your health.
Is Discover same as Know Your Health?
Yes, but for them, it's broader, right?
Okay.
It is not only the health assessment. There are so many elements to your health. For example, we are building and working on an interesting platform, which I'll talk about, which is meant to allow working professionals to do very small things to manage their health between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's not an assessment. These are markers, behavioral markers that tell you where your health stands beyond just a digital health assessment. We have proprietary scores, which can take up to 200 data parameters and tell you what your health is and why.
Okay.
We have scores that tell you, and this is interesting for the younger ones at least, your what we call active age vis-a-vis your physiological age, which means your lifestyle, your health, does it tie into you actually being a certain age?
Okay.
Sadly, in my case, it doesn't.
I think mine definitely will
Be
show
accurate.
like 60 at the current physicality I'm going through.
But it's not just your physical activity, right? It's how much you sleep, it's what you eat, and it will in some way also take into account genetic conditions that you may have inherited, right?
Right.
So it's a multitude of things. This level, these are all proprietary to us, by the way.
Okay.
Right? These are not randomly you can access somewhere else. The ability for you to know very detailed aspects of your health, but also know the reason why it impacts your health and what you can do as a corrective action is a very, very powerful draw for these users. The second one we already covered is contests, right? For the freemium users.
Okay.
Their ability to come participate in these contests, in that process, improve their health, right? While walking is very important. What we're building towards is driving value of the ecosystem we've created for them, right? So we have a e-pharmacy store,
Okay.
right? Where they can actually ongoing buy medicines at huge discounts. Now this could be not necessarily for the younger cohort, but also for their family.
Definitely.
Right? So the idea is over a period of time to create value for each of these consumers on the app. So these are the large 3-4 areas. Now within these there are multiple tools that they use, but there are 3-4 large areas of interest for them.
That they definitely find interesting. I think I also wanted to talk to you about, when companies talk about digital transformation, it's not limited anymore to websites and apps, right? There are tools like WhatsApp today, which a lot of businesses are leveraging. Could you share how, in the case of Aditya Birla Health Insurance, you all are leveraging different such innovative tools beyond an app?
Yeah. So what I'll say firstly is these tools will continue to evolve, right? We already are seeing signs of what's coming next. And as a company that's proud to be a data, digital and tech first company, we have a very keen eye on how each of these evolve, right? We are the first ones to actually put out a WhatsApp bot that processes claims in the market.
Okay.
Which means that in a time of need for the consumer, they don't care about whether they have a particular channel to access. But is it simple? Can I do it on my own?
So I don't need to call my agent, or I don't, because I'm so stressed already at this point, right?
So I just need, and it's a very well designed workflow.
Okay.
Which is very clear on what you need to do, information you need to provide, and how it is being processed.
Right.
So we very effectively used WhatsApp, starting with being the first company to build claims on WhatsApp. But then we didn't leave it at that. We actually proceeded to make it a transactional channel.
Right.
Which means transactions that you could have with the franchise about your health or your health insurance.
Okay.
And we are now working on how we take it into a conversational platform, because it is a conversational platform,
At the
right?
end of the day.
And conversational platform will lead to significant engagement. That's one part of the bot strategy. But we've also not left it at that. We've used technology, the bot technology, the underlying AI ML of bots in our contact center. So we have an IVR bot. There's a large part of when a consumer comes into the franchise, the welcoming and explanation of the product and the product proposition is done by a bot.
Oh, wow.
Right? But it doesn't drop the conversation if the consumer needs to know something they can't answer. It then hands off to somebody who can fulfill that.
Okay.
So it's not a dumb machine that's playing a pre-recorded message. Similarly, we've actually used this technology for our written correspondence with consumers. So we have email bots that have the ability to do a significantly large number of responses automatically with context, with a little bit of sensitivity towards the consumer situation. All of these is what really makes a technology like this work, right? It's very easy to set an auto response. But if you sense there's a sense of urgency or desperation in the consumer's tone,
right,
the bot treats it differently. Right?
But that can, at times it is scary to depend on a machine to finally do that. So do you have a human intervention that does check this today, or has it reached that level of automation?
The level of automation and efficacy is very high. What we fall back upon is our ability to reach out to the consumer if we find that the bot is not answering the question immediately.
Is there a trigger that comes into your system to...
The entire workflow is built to the AI ML algorithm of the bot itself. Right?
Okay.
Where if the answer given either as identified by the bot or declared by the consumer is not adequate, it immediately hands off to a warm body.
Okay.
To take the conversation forward across each of these.
Right.
Right. So there was an element when we got these technologies implemented of fine-tuning the accuracy, but we're at a very, very high level of accuracy right now for the kind of technology that we're using, and confident we don't hear consumers tell us that it doesn't work for them.
So definitely when it comes to customer servicing, today there's so many use cases that you can start putting on these bots, right? How is it that you all go around prioritizing the ones, because at the end of the day, resources are limited, money is limited. So how is it that you all have decided, let's go customer servicing first, or should we kind of do the welcome video first?
What helps consumers engage and interact with the franchise, if that's what we hear at scale from consumers, there's no question that that's going to take priority and precedence over whatever else we want to do. The second thing though is, and this is more process driven internally, and it's not necessarily a fine science, right? But every time we conceptualize what we want to do, we estimate and assess the impact it will create.
Okay,
right?
You forecast it.
We forecast it. And we do this for every new initiative we want to put on the table. And we use that estimation as a tool to assess what goes first. And the estimation is not merely a linear number. It is a number that talks to either an upliftment in engagement, or an improvement in experience, upliftment in revenue, or an improvement in efficiency. And it could be a weighted average in some cases. So therefore, every lens of what this does for our business and for our consumers is evaluated in that process. And that's how we prioritize. Does that mean we'll get this right every time? The answer is no, right? Not everything you put out there will actually end up delivering value to everyone in the same manner. And that becomes a feedback loop into the process.
Right.
Right? So we take that and we learn from that, and we use that in how we prioritize going forward.
Okay.
The risk in this process though is that when you're innovative and you're trying to be a company that does something for the first time in the market, you may not time the market very well. Right? There are enough precedences in the market where people have launched products and propositions too early in the market when the market's not ready.
Yes.
Right? So your ability to segregate innovation from BAU is the second element that's important here. And therefore we run innovation as a separate track altogether.
Oh wow.
Where the thresholds we have for success and failure are very different. A large part of that is on gut from experience, right? You believe, knowing what this technology and what your consumer want to do, that this will potentially work. And we'll of course go through the whole human-centric design thinking process of trying to talk to people subtly and figure out whether they'll make a difference. But that's not as refined an art as BAU is.
So you did mention there is the customer listening process. So we do have the standard ways in which, companies actually listen to the customers. Do you have any unconventional methods you can share with us on how do you hear the voice of the customer at ABHI?
I don't think it's unconventional in today's world, but we use some interesting tools, right? Which fundamentally tell us right from the customer journeys,
okay,
the clicks they go through, what are they experiencing and what the friction is, right? Typically it's called clickstream analytics. But we've actually taken it further, where we are using AI again with a partner and the tool that they provide us to look at interaction of the consumer's eyes with a pixel.
Oh wow, okay.
Right? And whether the interaction with the pixel. Now, what is the pixel? Pixel is not a click, right? Not everything is a pixel. It's not clickable on a screen, right? So fundamentally, let me take an example of the consumer is staring at a part of the screen without doing anything but just staring at it, which should not last more than 3 seconds. But on average, consumer is spending 10 seconds there.
That means they can't understand it?
Exactly. This is a very deep behavioral insight into what we have created for the consumer and whether it's landed or not.
Oh, wow.
So we're using a combination of such tools to decipher whether the consumer actually experiences us well or no. And of course, along with this, we have all the other traditional methods, right? We listen to calls, we listen to feedback, they write to us, we measure our NPS. All of those exist as an overlay on this, right?
Yes.
But I think in today's world, the ability to be proactive, for me, NPS is a great measure of measuring, in my mind, right, whether consumers positively or negatively influence an intended action. What we actually end up hearing a lot of times in that conversation, unintended action. We want to preempt that. And therefore, we use this method to observe consumers' behavior on the devices that are meant for them to experience us.
I think this is one of the most interesting tools, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to know what these tools are. Getting into more in terms of, we've spoken about onboarding, we've spoken about engagement. But like you said, there's an upper funnel, mid, and the bottom. I want to go back to the upper funnel and talk about how have you simplified the buy journey? Because honestly, insurance forms are very, very long.
I've moved into this industry from somewhere else, right?
Okay.
I was a consumer at some stage. The first problem I felt that needed solving in the consumer buy journey is 2 parts. One, the understanding of why health insurance.
Okay.
And the second is the understanding of the constituents of a health insurance product.
Definitely.
Imagine a consumer walking into a store, not knowing what the store is about, or not knowing what the products in the
Store,
in the store are.
I can't understand it.
That's typically what happens in a buying journey in insurance, because there is an aversion, because it's very complicated, right? And I would go as far as saying health insurance is one of the most complicated, because it does not require only financial services literacy, but also literacy on the health side.
Definitely.
It's complicated. It's not for everyone, right? So what we started off doing is trying to simplify this first.
Okay.
And this again is a combination of talking to all the people who help us sell our product, our consumers who buy the product, but it's not necessarily a true reflection, because there's a bunch of consumers who should buy but are not buying. And therefore the tools that I spoke about, right? When they come to experience and buy a health insurance policy, what are they looking for? And that doesn't come out of clicks. That comes about what they're reading. What they're reading comes to me through the pixels that they observe, right? So that's one part to it. So we've simplified our communication. We've looked at elements consumers are looking at.
Okay.
And we've put that in simple English for them to understand.
Can you share an example of how you simplified the elements? One will do.
Yeah. Take, for example, room category choice, deductibles.
Yes, deductibles.
What is this word? What does it mean? It doesn't have to be communicated to consumers in the language that we talk to each other internally. So we took what this means and we said, but deductible fundamentally is a policy has deductibles when the consumer pays a part of the claim and then the insurance company pays the rest. And we're trying to say we don't have that concept. But we said no deductibles.
And I don't know what deductibles is, so I can't understand.
And now the consumer is, listen, hello. What the hell is going on?
Yes.
The second thing is in one of our new products that we've launched, Active One, phenomenal product by the way, there's a concept called we'll cover consumables. Category 1, 2, 3. Okay. Where is the dictionary for this, right?
Yeah.
So we've specifically gone and solved this. So we started using a bit of AI.
Okay.
Letting you have a conversation.
With whom?
With the AI bot.
When I'm in the buy journey.
When you're on the website.
Okay.
Right? About what this means to me. Right? And we'll come, of course, there's a lot more we'll do with it. But it also keeps nudging you depending on what you're entering into the form.
Wow.
About information that is relevant to the choices you're making.
That's pretty interesting.
A small example of this is when a consumer and for their family construct chooses a cover that is lower than we think that is relevant for them, given the location they live in, etc., because cities have different costs, right? We actually nudge them calling out in this city or in this country or in this location, what percentage of health cost is out of pocket for the consumer. It's a small segue, a small nudge into saying, do you think you need more cover?
Yeah, but in a very subtle way, and you're not being in my face about it.
But also with data, right? Otherwise, typically, how would the consumer decipher whether this is relevant for them or not? What we saw is when we've done this, the intent we've been able to create at the top of the funnel has doubled because it simplified the consumer's understanding of the product, why they need it, and it's also nudged them in the direction of what's right for them. So that's fundamentally one of the large things we've done. The consumers that are now entering the workforce and who will buy insurance, right? I don't see them sitting with an agent in the mid to long run.
No, definitely. I mean, let's be honest. I don't.
wouldn't.
Yeah, and I'm just not sure if they will. I mean, I shouldn't be saying this, but I would be more comfortable buying it directly.
Yeah, as would a lot of consumers, I think, going forward.
And I want to do everything digitally. Like, I want everything on my phone today. My groceries, my clothes, everything should be.
Tomorrow you may want it on voice, right? And therefore, it is imperative that we simplify our product. We simplify what our products mean to our consumers, and we simplify the experience that the consumer has. Right?
Okay.
And that means, like I said, again, a lot of things, not just one or two.
So, Dhruv, let's be honest today. When I actually switched from my EA strategy role, when I was asked which role, I was like, I want to do digital, right? It's super cool. Sounds like fun. What would be your advice to people who want to make a career in digital, and what are some of the things that they need to be cognizant about?
I love this question, by the way. I think it's a combination of things. The first thing I'll say is, like every other job, and I said this earlier as well, there's a lot of day-to-day rigor that any job demands from you, and you should be willing to put into it, right? But digital is if I may call it that, is a job that requires specific skills. Can those be learned? The answer is yes, right? And therefore, a very specific view on the skills that you need to do a particular job, and you can do it while you learn on the job, right? But your knowledge of what it takes. For example, when you speak about opening up at the top of the funnel, right? It takes a certain cohort of people to have skills about sales and marketing, right? That's the bend of mind.
Correct.
Right? The ability with that to analyze data. So an analytical bend of mind. To sit below that is your understanding of the typical tools that are at your disposal to have that conversation, amplify that conversation, refine the conversation. And there are marketing tools, there are conversational tools, there are content tools. The last part though, right, is more behavioral, is how you orient yourself. And that's one of the things that I've learned and I've consciously implemented everywhere, right? Is you have to have a very, very, very strong bend of mind on outcome orientation in digital that is fully aligned to the outcomes of the organization, right? So for example, the way we have oriented the digital team in Aditya Birla Health Insurance is revenue, engagement, servicing and efficiency. We don't talk to ourselves in the parlance of apps and platforms. For me, apps and platforms are a mean to deliver these three large objectives. These objectives could evolve and change over a period of time, right? So I don't necessarily want to have a conversation to my team about what do we do on the app. I want to have a conversation with them, orient them.
How do you increase revenue?
How do you increase revenue? And then all these tools, skills are at your disposal. Now I understand and appreciate that this probably will take some time for people to get a grip on, right? And through that process, you learn skills, but you'll also grow. You will develop parts of your personality, the way you work. So I think fundamentally that's my larger message. Digital is a way of doing business. It requires daily rigor. It requires certain skills which you should know for the specific role you're doing, but your orientation has to be right.
And it has to be outcome oriented.
It has to be. That's the only way you'll deliver value to yourself and the franchise.
So Dhruv, we want to do a quick rapid fire with you. I'm just going to ask you 5 quick questions and just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
So the first one is, what was the most outlandish feature that one of your stakeholders has asked you to build?
Build a page for someone to download a form rather than building an application online.
Okay. What is your go-to productivity hack for staying on top of a busy digital transformation journey?
Just monitor my funnels every day.
Looking 5 years ahead, what's the one exciting trend that you see emerging in the health and wellness space?
The use of AI to understand and improve health.
Okay. What is the one framework or method that you found to be especially useful in your career?
Combination, a couple of things. One is agile, and the second is human-centric design thinking.
Okay.
Right?
And what is the most unexpected way in which a user has interacted with the Aditya Birla app or any of your platforms. It can be WhatsApp also.
We have potentially consumers who have 70 policies from us, and they've decided that they will use a combination of our assets specifically to manage different policies, which I found very unique.
Okay. I think, Dhruv, this has been one of the most enlightening discussions we've had on the podcast so far, and great takeaways for our audience. So thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we look forward to having you soon on Behind the Feature.
Fantastic. Look forward to it.